This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
To become a strong individual, it takes a lifetime of suffering to prepare you for that role. Training your body and your mind to endure what others see as tragic, finding peace, and doing what others cannot accomplish. When you do the impossible, you see that impossible is just a word. Putting a governor on your capabilities limits your true potential. Nothing would have ever been accomplished had those individuals listened to those around them. Great things can be done if we remove what we think we can't do. The world opens up and we become that extraordinary human being. Removing the mind blockade shows others what can be accomplished. I'm Kevin Donaldson, always here with Mike Falaise, and sitting in tonight is Bobby Curdell. Welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here and that's the stories that we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content, and now you can join. Follow us on all social media so you can find out what we're up to. On this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome a traveler all the way from California, to Taylor Cavanaugh. It's kind of I'm a little bit overwhelmed here. You're the first Navy SEAL that we had in here, and we're going to talk about the suffering of a Navy SEAL. Thanks so much for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
We're big fans. No, seriously, we've been talking about this for weeks.
I thought you meant Taylor's a big fan of ours.
No, I'm a fan of his. I mean,
Before we get into anything, let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody as police, but we do trust Toyota. So go to toyotahackensack.com and let them find you a car. So from the very beginnings of this show, one of the things that we do is we take a question from our audience, and our social media question tonight comes from Placate23. What has fear done to you? So everybody's had fear in their life. And it's always done certain things to you until you learn how to beat that fear. And I think that's what growing up pretty much is.
Yeah.
So a time in your life when you were afraid, what did it do to you?
I was thinking about this, and I might go a negative way, but it's been a catalyst for me since I was young. I was terrified of being average, terrified. And it was a catalyst for me to kind of do the things I've done, just kind of keep pushing, because I couldn't just, hang around the hometown and just live the normal. I couldn't do it, because I was just, call it filling some void, or maybe I had to prove something. Maybe it was that, but
I think that's what most people do. You have that little thing in you that says, I need more than this. This isn't, I'm not satisfied with this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good answer. Bobby, what do you think?
that's a great answer. I'm going to go a little more positive. Anytime I've had fear, it's made me more aware, in certain situations, as a kid, just my surroundings. It made me aware of what could happen if I was going to get in a fight, anything like that, playing sports, on my job, my family life. It just, I sort of use it as a focus. I don't use it, it doesn't cripple me, fear. You know what I mean? It makes me more aware and more focused on what I'm going to do.
But I'm sure there was a time in your life where it did cripple you? When you were younger, not in your adult life.
I'm going to say, obviously, my past and child abuse and everything else. So I remember being just overwhelmed with it, where, he's coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know what's going to happen. But then it also made me hardened.
Yeah.
At some point, the fear made me, I wasn't fearful anymore because I knew what was going to happen. I sort of adapted to it.
So fear is a funny thing. Fear is a very, very interesting thing. It can cripple you, or it can rise you to heights that you never thought were possible. When I was younger, like Bobby, I was just scared of everything. And then as I became a teenager, I was afraid of nothing, but still scared of everything.
Yeah.
In my adult life, I actually seek out things that I'm afraid of. I was afraid to get on a microphone. 4 years ago when we started this, I was so scared to sit in front of a mic. I didn't know what to say, but I just felt this need to go do it. And guess what? It turned out to be one of the greatest things ever. So now I don't seek fear, but when I see something that maybe I get that little gut feeling, that's the thing that I'm drawn to, because that's the thing that you're supposed to do, the thing that you're afraid of.
Yeah.
If you're afraid of losing, well, you better learn how to lose, because you're going to lose.
Yeah.
Winning's easy.
Failure's part of life.
Failure's part of life. So that's probably going to be the quickest social media question because you got a lot going on that I really want to get into. So Placate23, thank you so much for sending that question in. Keep sending in your questions. We'll try to get them on the air. And while you're at it, go to 234 Franklin Avenue. Go see Gus at Cubita Cafe in Nutley, New Jersey. Gus has got some of the most amazing food, a classically trained chef, and he really treats you like family. So go to 234 Franklin Avenue. Go see Gus at Cubita Cafe. So, Taylor, I've seen you. I follow your social media. I love your message. I'm so interested in where you were, but I'm actually, I want to start out from where you grew up because nobody who's done the things that you do comes from happy places. I don't think it's possible. So why don't you give the audience a little bit of how you grew up?
Grew up in San Diego, California. Dad was a Marine. It's born in Boston, but raised in San Diego.
Most beautiful place in the world.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it was, late 80s, early 90s, I was on a Marine base because it was an old Chinook base. And we just stayed out there after my dad got out, the sun and more into the warm weather than the winters. So that's where from my entire formative years from 5 to high school, that's where, and it was, they had a tumultuous relationship, breaking up. And so there was a lot of tension.
Well, Marines, they're notorious for, they're married to the core.
Right. Well, my dad wasn't even like that. He was in 5. He was out, by the time I was 5. And so he had, work and jobs, and there were some alcohol issues and drugs, and it was just tumultuous.
Was he a Vietnam guy?
No, he's too young. But so very grateful for how I grew up. I had amazingly supportive parents, sports and stuff. I mean, I never wanted for anything. We didn't have a lot of money and stuff like that, but I always felt loved. I always had support, but there was just some tension in the house quite a bit.
It's amazing how much kids draw that attention in. It carries on to your adult life. I don't care how strong you are.
Yeah.
So you played sports. What was your sports?
So in high school, I focused on football and lacrosse. But growing up, it was swimming, soccer, baseball. I did pretty much everything.
Oh man, that's gonna bring you into your next phase of life. But so I know you had some trouble growing up. You got into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
What was your first steps into that trouble?
I was always mixing it up a little bit. Just not a bad kid. I wasn't doing evil shit, but I definitely wasn't huge on authority, and I just kind of did what I wanted. It was really in high school where I kind of got arrested a couple times for fights and things like that. And then I got kicked out of school senior year for possession of marijuana. And that changed the trajectory because I lost some scholarship opportunities for lacrosse. I couldn't play senior year. And I just didn't even really understand the gravity of the situation. I was so
you were an athlete, obviously a very good athlete. Were you coachable, or were you like that? Were you, brandish with your coaches? Did you?
No, I was locked on. I was team captains and stuff like that. But But it was everything outside of sports. I would show up late to practice sometimes, and I just didn't have the discipline. And also, my mom was a single mom. It was just so I was out late at night going to parties and stuff like that. I wasn't as focused and dedicated as I should have been, but on the field I was good.
So is it a waste of talent? You think you had the talent to go further?
In lacrosse I could have. I would have played in college and stuff like that, and if I would have applied myself, for sure, I would have gone further.
But the consequences when you're younger. I was just having this conversation with my son. When you screw around in elementary school, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
You screw around in middle school, you're going to get a detention. You screw around in high school, you're not going to be able to play sports. You screw around in college, you're going to get kicked out. You screw around as an adult, now you run into legal trouble.
Yeah, now it's big boy stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I try to coach him that way to have a little bit of forethought. So you get thrown out of high school. Did you finish high school?
Yeah, I finished high school. I just went to the neighboring high school, but the way the rules were, I couldn't play there.
Now you're out of high school. You're not going to college.
Yeah.
Now what?
I did go to college. So there was one small school that would let me two-sport there. So I That's where I went, up in Orange County, Chapman University. I got in a huge car accident going up there, in the summer going up there though, and got ejected on the freeway out of a truck.
Route 5?
It was the 10.
The 10.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't the 5 the one that goes north and south?
Yeah, the 5 goes north and south. This one's like in the desert. It was way out there. And I dislocated my hip, but I walked away. I walked out of the hospital like 2 days later, pretty okay. They popped my leg back in, but it wasn't setting me up for success going into college.
So how long was your recovery?
I was banged up. I would say it took me probably a couple months before I kind of started building the muscle back up, but I couldn't play. I wasn't cleared. So I was drinking and I wasn't going up. It was the first time since I was like 4 I didn't play a sport really. So wasn't sure what my identity was. I was like the BMOC guy, but now I was just like off. And so I was drinking, man. I wasn't going to class and failed out pretty much. Pretty much you get forced off campus first semester.
Because you're invincible until you're not.
Oh yeah, and I was not invincible. I walked through a glass door like 2 months after that. My poor mom, man, 75 stitches, my whole face came off, and it was just a rough couple months going into freshman year.
So it's a good point. At this time, your mother, single mother, trying to control this kid who seems to start getting a little bit more out of control. Your mother's got to be tearing her hair out.
Yeah, my poor mom, man. It's great now because you know what? That's been the beautiful piece of all this is kind of getting right, overcoming. But then, we were way out in the woods, lost at that time, and my mom was trying to make it work. She's an unbelievable, hardworking woman, very successful, and man, it's selfish, right? It's just that living that's selfish way.
But that's what kids do.
Immaturity, used to having everything your own way, kind of, you know what I mean? And just that whole invincible thing, too, filters into it.
But kids are selfish by nature. It's not their fault. They think very ethnocentrically. The world revolves around them.
Yeah.
And at some point, you realize that the world doesn't revolve around you.
Yeah.
Did you have that moment?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Pretty much just a couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago?
Yeah.
I don't even know how old you are.
38.
You're 38.
Yeah.
No, you're still, God.
Young.
Yeah, you're still young. Your hips still work.
Yeah.
My hips don't work anymore. So now you're out of college. You got the idle time does the devil's work. You're getting involved in all this stuff. How bad did it get for you? Was it prison? Was there jail?
Well, yeah. So I graduated from college. I righted the ship, and it took me about 5 years. Long story short, I patched together a degree, but during that time, I had accumulated quite a few arrests, probably 10 or 12, were drunk in public, disturbing the peace, just driving on a suspended DUI.
Nothing violent, nothing like you're stealing shit.
No, it wasn't.
Stuff
Yeah, like knucklehead stuff, right? Knucklehead stuff, but I was like, oh, not a big deal, not a big deal. Then I look and try to get in the military because I always knew I was going in the military. That wasn't even a question. I knew I was doing that, and I just had to check the college box. That was just kind of, I don't know, looking back, it wasn't really strategic, but finished it. So now I go, okay, go down to the recruiter. They're like, dude, you're totally like untouchable right now. You're on probation. You have pending court cases, dude. You're tripping. So I organized it, righted it, lawyer organized the deal. They sent me to jail for 4 months in Santa Cruz County to clear it all up, to get off probation, commute the sentence.
So you were able to get off probation.
Yeah.
It sounds like almost like a PTI, but you still have to serve the time.
Right. PTI in New Jersey is
Pretrial intervention.
Yeah, you get out of jail.
You get out of jail free.
Yeah.
Well, I asked to go to jail because I really was on informal probation. I didn't have to check in, or it wasn't like anything, but you can't have any type of paperwork to get in the military.
If you're searching for an identity, I don't think prison's the right place to find it.
No, I wasn't trying to find an identity. I was trying to get in the service. And so it was going to expedite that 3 years.
Did you feel like that made you develop some character at that point, the whole jail thing?
Man, I was still I just was there checking the box, doing dips, working out, and there was saw some messed up stuff. You really see, you're with the bottom rung, people on meth and
What's the worst thing you saw in prison?
Man, people painting with shit, or and people coming in having killed their kids and shit, man, just evilness, man. So like on a different level, because I used to volunteer to clean the observation ward, so it was the crazies doing crazy shit, and it just that energy, right? It's not a very desirable place to be, And people just locked in the system, man. They're in there. They're gonna go back in there. They're gonna go back to prison.
Kind of like I'm never coming back here.
These guys, and I did, and that was the thing. And I ended up going back, but I got out and ready to rock and roll, and started that process of recruiting.
Well, what branch did you try to join?
I tried to go to the Marine Corps first because I was scared of failing SEAL training. I was fearful.
Yeah,
right?
You could always go force recon if you went to the Marines.
Well, yeah, they said no. They turned me down for tattoos. I had too many tattoos, so they said no. Went to the Army. They said no for my background. So I was scared as shit. This was a moment where fear crippled me for a moment where like 3 days I laid on my mom's couch. Didn't tell her anything, but I was like, oh no, I ruined my life.
You figured that you got nowhere to go.
Yeah,
What's your degree in, first of all?
Politics and international relations.
Okay, that serves you well. That's good.
Yeah,
That's good for the military.
Yeah, I liked it, man. I was interested in that whole political realm a little bit back in the time.
Then you find the Navy.
Yep. Or I went there. They were it was last chance you, man, and they said, yeah, we can work with what you got on because it really wasn't anything bad, just misdemeanors and some stuff, but stacked.
Well, the Navy's got some cool shit. Like they really got some cool shit. Because my cousin, he was a Navy diver, and he dove. He did the recovery on the USS Cole.
Okay.
But when you hear him talk about the Navy, a lot of people will join the Navy because they want to do military service, but they think that it's an easier route.
Yeah.
It's not. So he saw some shit. He's all fucked up from what he saw on the USS Cole, but he loved it. He loved it because his grandfather was a Navy man too.
Yeah.
My uncle. So, but the Navy's got it's got a lot of latitude in there. Kind of what I liked about it.
Yeah, they got a spread, a lot of specialties, and I said, hey, I'm here to be a SEAL. That's it. And they said, okay, because that's pretty much your only option. You could do this. I think aviation tech. I couldn't do any other thing because I had drug charges, no convictions. But they said, hey, if you can pass all the PSTs and get your waivers and letters of recommendation from SEALs and all this, then you can earn a contract.
So you run us through the process of becoming SEALs, because I'm pretty sure these days Navy SEALs are very prominent. You see a lot of them out there. Anybody who joins the Navy, I'll bet you a good percentage of them want to go that route.
Yeah.
So what's the process of becoming a SEAL?
They say it's about 1 out of 1,000 that make it, that actually come to the recruiter's office, and say, I want to be a SEAL, that actually end up becoming one. It's getting a contract's hard. So that was the hardest part, because you can't just sign and say, I want to try. I had to do about 40 physical screening tests once a week for about 40 weeks and work out with active duty SEALs in the Naval Special Warfare program to actually get some face time. We get my times up, get elevated scores down at the Naval Amphibious Base, mind you. So it was formal, and I was, stacking boxes at Home Depot at night and doing that in the day. So then I got a contract. Then you go to boot camp in a special warfare division. Then you get to BUDS preparatory school, which is just running, swimming, and lifting for like 8 to 16 weeks, depending upon how you test out. They take the top 75% and then send you to Coronado, send you to BUDS to start that.
And that's SEAL school then.
And that's the basic underwater demolition SEAL.
I got a question.
But there's a lot of failure options in there. That's what's scary.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize that you were elite?
Man, I never quite felt that, because there's always that next level up, right? And I have some homies, operating at the tip of the spear. So there was always that humbleness, and there's dudes that had done a lot, But it was a surreal moment when I walked up to my cage, my locker. That was a trip, because, man, I had walked out of jail 3 years to the day almost. And now I'm standing at my SEAL locker. And I'm like, well, my name on it, my cage. And I was like, whoa, at SEAL Team 7 in the locker. That was a trip. That was a moment where I was like, whoa, man.
Because you have to overcome a lot, because you're about to go through some serious psychological torture. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. Let's call it what it is. Serious psychological torture. And they do that it's a game. It's just, it's on a completely different level than the police academy, what we went through. But once you figure out the game of the police academy, it becomes pretty easy.
Yeah, there's really no comparison, but it's just on like
it's the mind game.
Fuck,
yeah.
They try to mind fuck you,
And trust me, what you went through is nothing. What we went through is nothing compared to what you went through. So you're sitting there, and you're getting ready, and you know the hardest part's coming.
Yeah.
Like, you know what everybody talks about.
Yeah.
And I know it's such a small portion of SEAL training, but that Hell Week,
Yeah.
when they're trying to get you to quit.
Yeah, I was scared, man. Loading up for that, I was scared. I mean, we had a hardcore group too. I mean, like, my first phase instructors were Marcus Capone and Eddie Gallagher, were two of them, right?
Eddie Gallagher, why do I know that name? Was he in 234?
No, he was the dude that was, Trump had to pardon.
Oh, okay, Eddie Gallagher.
Yes,
That's
yes,
it.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was at SEAL Team 7 with him too. Awesome operator. That guy's hardcore, man. He's legit. So I felt like I had instructors that really were about the business, and we had a tough class, and it was cold, man, and I hate running too, and so the running was always difficult for me. I was always making the times barely, and then people just start getting whittled down, and by the end of it, we flew out with about 400, and then we finished with probably about 48 guys finished probably.
Wow.
So you're sitting in Hell Week, the first time somebody goes and rings the bell, and the ringing the bell is obviously to signify that this person has quit. Do you remember the first person that quit?
No, man, it was so much chaos. There was people that quit before we even started, right? Just out of straight fear of it being not even started the course yet. There was a lot of those too.
Which is crazy, because it sounds like getting to this point is difficult.
Yeah.
You said
That's what I thought.
Getting a contract is not easy.
Yeah.
And to quit before you even
The
start.
anticipation of the pain, right, is often worse.
It's about that mental stress, right?
Right, the anticipation of the what's about to happen. I had nowhere else to go, so that's where I was like, not even an option.
That's a great
That's
motivating tool.
Yeah,
the biggest recipe for failure is having a plan B.
yeah,
I've heard that over and over throughout my
There is
life.
no plan B.
yeah.
Listen, if I leave here, I got nothing. So guess what? I might as well break myself in order to get here.
Yeah.
So, as the SEALs, once you're SEAL 7, once you're done with this, now you're a team. But
Yeah.
when you're in Hell Week, there has to be some individual drive. Like, listen, I'm by myself here. I have to get through because no one else is really going to help me here. I have to get through myself, right?
Yeah, you have your little boat cruise, and you're kind of with like 6 guys, 7 guys throughout the whole thing. So you do have a little bit, but that gets moved around.
Is it
and
competitive in that sense? Like, guys are like, or is it just
no,
like...
you're like just getting through. Everyone's just kind of like muscling through, and so dudes are quitting, but you're in your own world, man, and the dust settles at the end.
I don't know what you looked like when you went through SEAL training, but you're not a little dude, and I know they pair the boat crews up by height because if they got a guy who's 6'7",
Were you always this big?
I'm like 215 now. I went through buds about 185.
So you were.
I wasn't small. I'm 6 feet, 185 going through.
Right, you're not like I can imagine the littler guys had an easier time. You got a lot of weight to carry around.
Yeah, man, I paid the man, bro, on the runs and stuff. But you know what? I trained so hard going in. Running was never great, but I think it really helped me is regarding the stress fractures and stuff that dudes got. I never got any stress-related injuries.
Yeah, that's the whole Goggins thing, right? He had all those
Stress fractures and stuff. Yeah, and a lot of guys get those.
I'm sure, because it's just your body's not meant to do all those things.
And it's just the volume. Yeah, volume.
So you get through Hell Week, and then they got what's a walking phase that they call it?
Yeah, the walking week is right after, just to kind of heal up a little bit.
Heal up. But so the cool thing I heard about buds, and again, this is all me hearing stuff, is you get to eat whatever you want to eat. You're burning so many calories, you just get to eat whatever.
They feed you good too, man. And that galley in buds is legit, man. I mean, steaks and they're not feeding you normal military food.
With somebody who's in there, somebody who's got no plan B, and I know this is a weird question, but like your diet, I'm sure you had choices of pizza, or you had choices of steak.
Yeah, they were pretty good about what they fed us. I don't remember too much. I mean, they had some cakes and shit like that. I was always just focused on the meat and the fruit and stuff. I was never into. I'll mac down a pizza though, then for sure. No. At that time, man, I would put a box of cereal down every night just to like quell the hunger.
Carb up.
Yeah, man, a box of
But your body's burning so much that sugar just.
Oh man, just
out.
poof.
The doubt going through those phases. I'm sure that at some point, when you're in Hell Week, you're doubting, am I going to do this? Am I going to do this? It's that doubt that creeps in your mind. And then you make it through Hell Week and you're like, all right, I got it. But I know there's other very difficult phases after that.
Yeah.
When did you finally start saying, okay, I'm going to get my trident? this is going to happen. This is a reality.
Yeah, that's a good question, is because then you have SQT after too, but you start to see light at the end of the tunnel. I'll say
SQT, is that where they take you off to that island?
that's third phase, but SEAL qualification training is the 7 months after BUDS, which is the skydiving, the land warfare, the close quarters combat, all that stuff, the technical side. But you can still fail stuff there, and dudes do, but it's rare. After pool competency week in blue phase, where you do the 20-minute test underwater,
Where they try to drown you?
yeah, where they pretty much do drown you, is your percentages of actually finishing go up quite a bit. But it was when I finished BUDS when they said, hey, y'all have successfully navigated basically on our demolition SEAL. And I went, whoa, man. Because I saw the documentaries and grew up wanting to be, and now I had just finished that. So that was cool.
Now you're part of Jesse Ventura. The key component to any law enforcement officer being the best version of themselves is through education. Sherrie Allsup is a leader in providing that education to police agencies, preparing them for the all too frequent dealings with sexual assault victims.
You've seen Sherrie on episode 169 of the Suffering Podcast. She survived incest and almost daily sexual assault, so she comes from a place of experience and true understanding.
Sherrie has the intelligence, commitment, and compassion to open the eyes of those on the front lines, while providing the tools to effectively deal with a difficult situation. Sherrie's instruction comes from experience and multiple certifications.
Training with Sherrie will offer on-site training, customized schedules, specialized instruction tailored from a victim's perspective.
You are going to hear Sherrie's heart-wrenching but inspiring survivor story. Learn proprietary trauma-informed training techniques, uncovered victim-centered interview methods while earning continuing education credits according to your state guidelines. To be the best, you must learn from the best. Let Sherrie also guide you through the delicate cases of sexual assault from a victim's point of view.
Be a source of comfort to those victims affected by these traumatic experiences while producing a solid investigation and uncovering details that often go unnoticed.
To find out more or to contact Sherrie Allsup, go to sherrieallsup.com. That's SherrieAllsup.com. Before you actually get your trident, now you're amongst this elite group that got as far as you did, and you're amongst the Chris Kyles, the David Goggins, the Jocko Willings. You're among this weird fraternity that's so few people. You are, like you said, the tip of the spear. How's your mind? You're coming from this area now where you were looking for your identity. You think this is what it is?
I was so happy. I was right where I was supposed to be. I was fired up. I was at work early, leaving late, getting accolades, taking on responsibility, getting lots of qualifications early. I felt like I was on a divine wave, man.
So the discipline probably did something for you too.
It helped. I was pretty locked on. I was just happy to be there, man. I was just stoked to have made it and be there, and especially after all the shit,
And then you finally get your trident. That one day that you're waiting for. So what happens after you get your trident? Do you get your orders? What happens?
Yeah, they send you. We went to language school for 3 months, but you get assigned to your SEAL team. So I got assigned to SEAL Team 7.
And you have Eddie Gallagher as your commander?
No, he was just in the platoon. He was just an instructor going through, but ended up going to Team 7 as an operator.
But he's obviously just another SEAL at this point. He's not where he is right now. And listen, I do watch that guy because I think he's got a real great message. So there's something about the mindset of a SEAL that I'm just so interested in. You got somebody like Bobby. Bobby here is locked on. Like he can be super focused on whatever he's doing. And you.
Oh, man.
The one without the hair in the room.
Go fuck yourself.
And then there's someone like you. Like, I think you could have done it. I think you got the mindset to do it.
I actually wanted to be an Army Ranger.
Oh, yeah?
My father's Army, and he pushed me. And I just was, talk about no discipline. And so, I just didn't have the drive to do it. I played all sports. I just was like happy to exist until one day I woke up and the police test came out, and I said, you know what, this is what I'm going to do.
So mine was easy. Like, I tried to, sophomore year in college, I tried to join the Marines. My grandfather kicked the shit out of me. He was a World War II vet. He kicked the shit out of me because he's like, no, you go to college. You don't go in the military. He hated the military.
Yeah.
and they said I had too many knee surgeries, so I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool. Like,
Yeah.
I tried, I did my
Yeah.
thing, and that was the end of it for me. And I figured, I'm not going. If I'm going to Marines. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
You're way too soft, dude.
Fuck you. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So, what was your first orders? What did you have to do first?
First thing, I went to comm school, Naval Special Warfare Communications School, volunteered for that. Then I went to Joint Terminal Attack Controller School, which is coordinating ordnance drops from aircraft. Then I went to did a G20 summit, like maritime extraction force for Obama was down there in Cabo, and that was like a mini little op. We're prepping to see if he was in transit. They were worried about the cartels, and so we were kind of kitted up. I almost died down there. I almost drowned. It was actually closest I ever came to death was on that little op. But that was my first real kind of thing, and it also shook me awake. Going, oh man, this is big boy rules now. I gotta make sure I stay locked on, and nobody's gonna keep you alive out here.
Well, that's what people don't realize. You go through SEAL training. You figure, okay, you're done. You can you can step off let your foot off the gas a little bit. No, you really can't.
There has to be a routine for staying physically and mentally fit, like every single day.
Yeah, you're expected to. There's no like group PTs and stuff like that. It doesn't in the SEAL teams. You are full autonomy. Like,
you're around a bunch of gorillas.
Yeah,
okay?
you're a full autonomy.
You better step up.
Yeah, and it'll show in training cell if you show up not ready. So that I came back from that. Then I went to sniper school. So I went to sniper school in Atterbury, Indiana, and Naval Special Warfare sniper school, and passed. Now I got some pretty good qualifications, and we started our work up prepping to go to Yemen.
Did you end up going to Yemen?
Yeah. So I went to Yemen, just growing a beard, getting weird, just off the flagpoles, like 7 or 8 of us, actually, not a lot, in civilian clothes, way out. And that was about 7 months we were out there.
So the one thing I know about reading a lot about SEALs is there's wartime SEALs and there's peacetime SEALs, and they're very different individuals. Like Jesse Ventura would talk about it. He goes, I was a great wartime operator.
Yeah.
He wasn't a SEAL because they didn't have the SEALs yet, but I was a great wartime operator. I was a horrible peacetime operator.
Yeah.
Because when it's peacetime and there's nothing to do, so focus on uniform, focus on shave and stuff. Where did you fit into that?
I would get hit for, having my hair too long every now and again and stuff like that. But luckily it's pretty lax. But this is kind of where my journey and the suffering started that I was bestowing on myself was, man, I got an arrest, drinking, I got
while you were a SEAL.
Yeah, so I had multiple. So, and that was the thing, they were spread out about a year, drunk in public or whatever.
Yeah, but I from a police standpoint, I gotta like, what the fuck was wrong with that officer for arresting you? Like, I caught a lot of
Did you fight the
military.
cops?
Well, no, they actually hooked me up because it was like a hook and book. Hey, we're not even going to run paperwork type thing. So they're like, and I was just too drunk, man. I was like, yeah. They're like, hey, sleep it off type thing. And that happened twice in a year apart, which I kind of just skated by because it's in alcohol-related incidents in the SEAL, you're going to get blasted. And so I was, but the momentum was picking up. Now I was kind of drinking a little bit my own Kool-Aid. Not cocky, but now I'm partying harder. Now I'm, coming back from Yemen. Now I'm, just kind of getting ahead of my skis. And I hit a guy in a bar, and that was like an aggravated assault now. And that was some serious shit. I had top secret clearance. I ended up having to go to jail and whatever and all this stuff. Kept my top secret clearance, get demoted, whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm clear. I get another thing 3 months later, and that was the nail in the coffin.
What was the reason that you were doing this stuff?
I don't know, man. Like looking back, I just didn't see what the problem was until it was too late.
You had, because looking from the outside in, you had everything you ever wanted.
Man, I felt too good. Right, that was the thing. Is I'm like, when you're peaking, be careful.
Top of the world.
I was celebratory. Yeah. Right? It was like that. I was like, man.
Do you think you might have had an alcohol problem?
Oh, I mean, I definitely overconsume. I don't go soft in the paint.
You're amongst friends here with alcohol problems.
Oh,
yeah. And guys who mix it up, man, we can just a certain type, and it's not like I'm a huge, problem, but it's just, you're going to create some karmic
I think the
debt.
best way I can articulate that is I could be a problem without any alcohol.
Yeah.
But when I add the alcohol to it, I'll be a little quick to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
and
a good point.
then there's a real fucking problem.
Yeah, that
You know
is
what
a
I
really
mean?
good point.
That's what booze did to me.
Well,
Yeah.
the buffer's
I was
gone.
the same
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
I was just a little quicker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely, it's going to make that veil pretty thin.
So you go through your second arrest.
Yeah. And I knew I was fucked at that point.
So your idea of fucked is different from our idea of fucked. So I need to know what your idea of fucked is.
I'm going to get kicked out of the SEAL teams. I'm fucked.
And now what?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, well, I wasn't even worried about jail. That was like the last thing I was concerned about. But I knew I was toast, man. And Navy JAG, and I actually didn't even get kicked out for that. The Navy SEAL community was actually very great with me. They're like, tried to protect me. I actually beat that case. It got thrown out. So what actually ended up being nothing, but they tested me for steroids, Navy JAG. And so I actually got hit for performance enhancing drugs. That was I took a general discharge because of steroids.
Wow.
Yeah, that was actually what did it. And that's zero tolerance. So that's a zero tolerance thing.
You got any left?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Get you whatever you need.
Yeah.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
So is that like a common thing, you think, with guys in special forces and any special force that, you have to keep your body, you're getting torn down constantly. You need things to keep you have to have your testosterone level has to be up. Everything has to be up. Do you think that's something that
I think
just so you look, I think other guys maybe. I'm not asking you to say anything out of line here.
No, I just, for me, I was doing it, I wanted to be stronger, look better, and I knew what I was doing, right? I knew it was against the rules and there's possibilities some shit could come down. So I was playing with fire and I knew it. Now I think the testosterone and TRT is kind of a little bit more mainstream. And so they're actually, military doctors issue it,
Just like you getting locked up for marijuana, now it's legal.
Yeah.
Like there's no, it's just the weirdest shit.
Yeah.
I did jail time for marijuana, right? And now people are smoking it, blowing it in your face.
Yeah.
So the younger generations now, like, what happens? Did you rob it out of a 7-Eleven?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, just go to jail for that stuff for. But again, you're like Bobby said, you're performing at such a high level. You're expected to perform at such a high level, and as time moves on, you're not as young as you used to be. You need to try to keep going and keep at that level because it's something that you apparently love. So do you end up getting kicked out of the SEALs?
Yeah, so I signed a deal. They say, hey, if you just admit the guilt, not drag this thing out, we'll take a general discharge. So I took a general, under honorable discharge. Had to go back to jail to get off probation again in Idaho, right? So I'm going back to jail. And a couple weeks, nothing crazy. But when I walked out of jail, man, I signed my DD-214, clean, no reserve. I'm out. And I have no probation, nothing. So I'm like fully clean and clear. And I moved into a civilian job, being a supervisor for a private residential real estate developer. And that was cool, but I started stacking some bad habits quick. I mean, the day I got finished out of the military, I was doing Adderall, Xanax, smoking weed, drinking at night, kind of take the edge off for about a year. And then a year at that year, I started snorting fentanyl at night, every night for like a year. On top of all this, but I'm also still being very successful. Now I'm the CEO of a cannabis distribution company in California. I'm pitching decks.
Shit.
I'm raising millions of dollars. I'm working for a big venture capitalist. I'm in a high rise. I'm like meeting with congressmen and getting all these things. So I'm like, look, I'm good, right? Whatever I'm doing is working, right? So,
Well, that's the mark of a lot of good addicts.
and
just
that,
so you know.
I was easy at lying to myself. I could lie to myself, go, look, this is, but you can't bend reality that long, and I came crashing down.
This story got really good real fast here.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's actually
Because and I know people in my own personal life, ultra successful. And when you have these little things, deficiencies, the big bosses will say, yeah, but he's doing such a great job.
Yeah.
So we'll give him a little grace on this one.
it's not a problem till it's a problem.
And that's exactly what it was. And I turned into a liability like overnight. It was like, golden boy, next day you're out pretty much. And so, and I lost everything, man. I lost the job, the girl, the whole life gone, really, money, everything. Just, it was pretty much gone overnight. Well, it took about 3 months for the axe to really fall. Then I find myself homeless in my truck, gonna kill myself. I have a sawed-off shotgun and I'm sitting there for like 3 days going, man, it was like the smoke settled and like, I just realized I had nothing left. I was like, bro, now everything's gone. I can't point to anything, and I had no money, no gas. I was like, oh, this is how it happens. You just sneaks up on you, and then you're fucking.
You traversed the mountain in reverse.
Oh man, it was brutal. It was a brutal, but I wasn't even sad. It wasn't like I was sitting in there crying. I was just like matter of factly, all right, how do I do this and not make too much fucking mess, man? Serious. It was matter of fact, and then I had that authentic voice of God speak to me, man. It was like, man, you're being a huge pussy, right? Sack up. You have a mom, a sister, right? You're being super selfish right now. Lock it on. And that's when I made the decision to join the French Foreign Legion. I was in France 8 days later.
You know what happened is all that stuff, all the shit that he did to become a SEAL kicked in at that moment because that's that desire to be something more, right?
Yeah.
And you're like sitting there going, oh, this is how it happens. You know, oh, I guess I'm going to blow my brains out. And then you're like, wait a second, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
I was a fucking SEAL. You might not have said that, but that had to click it somewhere subconsciously that all the shit that you did.
That voice of God is so prevalent. You had it. I've had it. And so it's that one moment when you have total clarity of thought and you just say, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, and some people, our good friend Mike Felice, never really got to that point. Maybe he had it and he just ignored it. It fell on deaf ears. But when you hear it and you start climbing out of that hole, because you're at the bottom right now. Like, you were at the top. Now there's nowhere to go. You got no more plan B.
Yeah.
And now you start climbing up.
How old were you when this happened?
34.
So
so it's 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You're a little long in the tooth to go to French Foreign Legion. I mean, this isn't Abbott and Costello shit.
Yeah, man. I was going to Legion selection at 34, man.
So I don't even know how you get into Legion selection.
Yeah. You just fly. There's only one way to do it. You fly there, you go to the base, and you knock on the door. That's it.
I got a question that a Navy vet asked me to ask a Corey Karras. He said, can you share a memorable experience or challenge you faced while serving in the French Foreign Legion that was distinctly different from your time with the Navy SEALs?
There's a lot of old tradition, right? The Legion, 200-year-old old French. And so there was a lot of cool moments where I'm in these rooms with, 20 guys and there's 20 different languages being spoken. That's a trip. Guys from Ukraine, Belarus, Mongolia, Thailand, Colombia, all in one room, man. So I had a lot of poignant moments where I was like, wow, this is a trip.
I couldn't even tell you what the French Foreign Legion does.
Yeah. So it's a 200-year-old organization that was started by an old French king to get foreigners who were causing problems in bars and shit in France back onto the battlefield from a previous war and fighting for France with the carrot of French citizenship. It was modeled after the Roman legions. Serve your time, you'll give you French citizenship, yada, yada, yada. And they fought in every war for France since Algeria to Afghanistan.
Wasn't Lawrence of Arabia? Was he French Foreign Legion?
Possibly.
I'm not quite sure.
I don't know where you get this shit
Didn't
from.
you see the Peter O'Toole movie?
Possibly that white kepi hat walking through the desert.
Yeah.
It's a trip, dude.
I would look good with that fucking thing on.
Yeah.
On a horse.
Yeah, it would look good.
Did you ride horses?
I never rode a horse. We walked.
So you've already been through the preeminent, arguably one of the hardest training periods through Navy SEAL training. Now you're in French Foreign Legion training. What was that like? Was it in comparison?
It's Army infantry boot camp. That's pretty much what it is, right? But it's just with that French Legion flavor, a little bit more rustic, a little bit more pirate. It was basic training, right? And so that's actually was the hardest part for me because I was going back to basics. Not to mention, hey, Navy SEAL, come clean this fucking toilet.
Yeah.
A lot.
A little humbling.
So they shoved the whole humble pie down my throat, man. I had to strip it all down, and that was years, man. Legion's very strict discipline. You walk across the grass wrong, they'll put you in jail. I'm not even lying. They're very strict about everything, salute officers, everything's very formal. And I went on 2 deployments with them. I went to South America, do an interdiction of gold mining, and then we also deployed.
Those real bad places, like the human, they're like human toilets. It's awful.
Bro, it's a trip down there. It's like the Wild West, French Guiana, down in South America, border of Suriname, and there's just crazy what's going on down there.
So did you see this as your last chance or just your second chance?
I was just like, I knew I needed to use it as a vehicle of self-development. I needed to figure out what I was doing that kept fucking up my life, And I was like, I need some time just to burn off some karmic debt too. I needed to think. I needed to just unplug. It was just all these things, and I wanted to write a good story, right? Deliberate. So I never heard of a Navy SEAL being a Foreign Legionnaire. Only person to ever do it. So it was a trip, very difficult, cold, man, harsh, stripping it back down to basics.
And then once you got through all that, did you like your peaks and valleys are crazy. Like most people's peaks and valleys are mild.
Yeah.
Your peaks and valleys are like way up here, way down here, and now you're way back up here to go from elite to nothing to elite again.
Yeah.
You had to feel some sort of
I
accomplishment.
felt good. I felt really good. And then, that you're there a couple of years, and then I realized I wasn't happy still. That was a moment that actually was fucking scary because I go, there's nowhere else to go. I started looking into Ukraine and, contracting and stuff.
Mercenary stuff.
Yeah, I started looking into all that stuff. And I go, bro, where does this end? Where am I running to? Where am I running? I'm running away from myself, really. I go, I want to live a life, man. I want to have, a wife and kids. And, it's lonely, man. So I was like, look, I got to do internal work here. So that's when I started kind of diving into better principles and practices.
So what were some of the, what was the tipping point of that where you start diving in, you start doing that deep dive to figure out what the underlying issue is?
Yeah. I knew it was structured. I needed to get discipline. Even in the Legion, I was like, I need to set my own wake up times. I need to start working out consistently. I was training, but I lock it on every day type things and stay away from all the negative shit, doing bars and all that stuff.
Did that help you with your crisis that you have in your own head?
I started getting massive clarity. And that was when I really started living aligned, where all my actions were aligned with my desired outcomes. That's when I started feeling better. I go, oh, okay, you can't be doing all this weird shit over here and expecting this beautiful life. It's not going to go.
But your actions towards your desired outcomes, what's those desired outcomes that you're seeking?
So first of all, I wanted to get my body a certain way, right? That was the physical part. And then I wanted, success. And so but I knew I wanted to get into coaching and mentor because I was like, man, taught myself how to feel good and proud of myself just off simple daily practices. That's what I needed. And I've done all the dumb shit I could tell people not to do. I was like, I would like to get into that. Well, I got to make sure I'm good first, consistently. And so that was the piece I started working on to make sure that I was good, doing all the things daily that were going to allow me to actually walk the walk.
So you wanted to get into some sort of mentoring coaching program. Did you finally get a chance to do that? And that's my first question.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when you first get that taste of helping somebody else, what did that do for your psyche?
Well, it wasn't my exact goal to get into coaching, but I knew I just wanted to share my story. And so I put up a YouTube video and it blew up. And then I got hundreds of emails being like, dude, I was going to kill myself. I saw your video, hundreds. And so I was like, that was cool. And that I was like, at least all that pain helped somebody. And so that was the moment where I go, I could do this, man. And
then you finally do it. So I've watched a lot of your social media. You're in the gym, you're working out, you're working hard. And listen, I'm watching it. And the other day I was watching something and I really didn't want to go to the gym. I'm telling you right now, I'm about to turn 50. I really didn't want to go to the gym.
You go to the gym?
Sometimes. And I watched one of your videos and I'm like, all right, that's all I needed. It was just a spark.
Yeah.
That's, it's just a spark. My job is to ignite the fire.
Yeah.
But that's what it does.
Yeah.
That's what it does. And it's an enormous sense of accomplishment when somebody comes to you and say, hey, listen, you kind of changed that hairy moment.
You're making
me.
a difference. You're making a difference. Now, do you ever help other veterans?
A lot. So a lot of my clients now are former or veterans, got from all over the world too, UK, Australia, all over. A lot of them with similar paths. You really find out, man, a lot of people have those peaks and valleys. We all suffer the same ways. And a lot of times the answers are the same to kind of get that clarity back. And start building yourself up, get that momentum, get the mojo back, start feeling good about what you're doing again. That's a beautiful process.
So you watched a lot of old time, when somebody got in trouble, the judge used to say, well, you can go to jail or you can join the military. So it kind of makes sense that people who are a little bit lost join in the military because it seems to be throughout time.
Yeah.
But so it's a perfect fit for you. It's, you're connecting with certain people because you're showing your vulnerabilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's something that's really important.
Yeah.
It's not easy for people to do.
No, you got to be authentic if you expect people to be authentic with you. You got to be straight up. And also, it's nice just spilling up because then you don't have any shit in the closet, man. And they're like, hey, you. Oh, yeah, you already talked about it. You already spilled the beans, man.
So what do you think your biggest success is as far as reaching out to other people and moving them along in their life?
Seeing guys be like, you saved my marriage, man, you saved my life. I was suicidal. Now I got this new job and career, man, over months and months. Some people I have on year programs, 6, like seeing significant change quick is unbelievable. And then when guys like actually grab it by the horns and really actually start implementing things, because change it requires deliberate, decisive action. It really does. You have to start changing your actual daily flow, and that's not easy.
It sounded like you went through all this discipline with these different, with SEALs and Legionnaires. It's discipline after discipline after discipline. But you found your self-discipline.
Yeah.
This was discipline other people were putting on you, and you just had to follow. But now all of a sudden you have that self-reliance.
Yeah.
That thing that you were looking for, in the SEALs and in the Legionnaires, is this what you were looking for?
Oh, dude, I love it. I love exactly what I do. I mean, 7 days a week I'm on it, and I'm on Zooms every day since I kicked this thing off, and I couldn't be happier because it's my design life, man, right? It's my schedule. It's me helping people. It's living in purpose, and you got to walk the walk and teach. And I don't even tell people what to do. I show them where to look to find the answers, right? And they make it work for them.
How'd you kick like the booze and drugs and all that? What'd you do? You did that self, or you got help somewhere?
Man, the fentanyl was the worst thing, right?
I can imagine.
That was like an actual addiction. That was brutal. Opioid addiction. People ever deal with that? That was tough, man. And then it just focusing on the greater and the lesser starts falling away. That's kind of this focus on.
If you're strong enough mentally, you can do that.
But that's the one thing you got going for you. It sounds like you got enough up here in order to carry you through. Mm. You have that, and it's not everybody has it. Mm. So, it's kind of like, where are you going? Yeah. What are you doing now?
He's feeding off of other people's their response to what he's doing. You know what I mean? That's a big, big thing, I think.
Your whole life seems to be like, okay, what are you doing here? Yeah. Where are you going with this?
Yeah.
Where are you going? Like, that's, if I'm looking back on your whole life, what you're telling me, it's like, where are you going with this? And I just had this experience with somebody. I'm on the phone with somebody and they're complaining about something. And they're asking me questions, and I can tell they're not asking me the question that they want to ask me. Mm. So I would ask them afterwards. It was like 6 phone calls. I'm like, where are you going with this? And they'll get pissed off at me, hang up the phone, right? Second, they call me up with some other bullshit. I'm like, where are you going with this?
Yeah.
Hang up the phone. Finally, the guy goes, well, you're being adversarial. And I said, no, I'm getting frustrated because you're going somewhere and you're afraid to ask me a question. You're afraid to ask me what you really want.
Yeah.
Just fucking ask me.
Yeah.
Just fucking ask me.
Yeah.
And that's what you did. You finally got to where you wanted to go.
Yeah. And it was pulling the trigger, walking into that fear a little bit. Man, can I make this work? Can I actually do this as a living? And that was scary, right? And also was, can I keep this consistent? Can I prove to myself that I'm good and all that? Nothing's perfect, but I'll tell you what, I could not be doing anything else.
Well, you live in an area where it probably is best not to work as much as you have to.
Yeah.
Because Jesus, the San Diego weather is the best weather.
Man, it's nice, bro. I love it.
I was there, and I was there when I was like 18. I should have stayed out there.
It's the only place I've ever been to in this country that I would move to, because everywhere else is pretty much the same. They got a CVS on every corner and a Starbucks and stuff. But San Diego, I actually stayed right by Coronado, where the convention center is, and the Marriott's there, Seaport Village, and the Gaslamp Quarter. And I had the best time, but man, I tied it on.
Back in the early 90s, it was really difficult for someone that grew up here to go out there because it was different. People in California are just different. They're laid back. It's like, we're high strung. I want to go. Yeah.
So the first time I land in San Diego and we go to get something to eat. Now we go to a Hooters just because it's something that we know. The women in Hooters were like any A team in a strip club around here. Yeah. Okay. Hooters. You go to Hooters around here, and God, I'd look better in a Hooters than some of these people. And I don't want to.
That's how I get crazy.
You'd like it.
Look at those lines.
You would eat naked chicken wings off of my belly.
No, I would not do that.
But I walked out there, and that's when I knew it was different, because the woman serving me was probably the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen in my life, outside of my wife, and I have to say that because, I'm on camera.
Yeah.
And it was a different mindset. But I can see living out there would be difficult for me, because I think I would get very complacent.
Yeah.
Because there's so much around.
Yeah.
So where can our audience find you? All right, you got this coaching program. I know that there's your social media. It's TCAV official.
Yeah, TCAV official on my Instagram. You hit me up on DMs. I answer. I don't outsource anything.
That is true. That is true, and I can speak from experience on that one.
Yeah, and also my website, taylorcavanaugh.com. All that traffic goes right to my personal email. So if you go through the contact form, that goes to me, and they have the program and stuff. But it gives you a little bit more of the story and some pictures and stuff just to kind of get the flow. And my YouTube, TCAV TV, where I dive into those deeper principles. Man, every video, one take, no edits, stream of consciousness. And then I also do gym footage and sessions with guys.
Where's that gym in San Diego?
Man, I go to Metroflex Marietta. It's Temecula kind of area, a little bit north.
That's a nice looking
Man,
gym.
that's a badass gym, dude. Metroflex Marietta is sick.
You got to take a look at this gym. You got to check it out.
It's badass.
Me and you are going to go out to San Diego.
Why don't we
We're
fly
going to see
out there
Taylor.
and do a guest podcast?
I'm in.
That's what you should do. You should get your own podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a lot.
It's
of work.
hard, man.
It's a lot of work.
That's what I'm saying. It's hard.
So we're coming to the end of this thing, and our show is all about overcoming adversity, which kind of fits your mold perfectly. That's why when we were introduced by Reed Morin, and I said, this guy fits us perfectly. Let me see what we can do. And sure enough, you were kind enough to join us. You've lived this life of suffering, and in my opinion, if you don't learn from your suffering, it's such a wasted opportunity. That's where the real growth sits. So all that suffering that you went through, what do you think it's taught you?
Man, it's taught me to be grateful in the moment, right? Stay present. It's also taught me to, man, cherish your energy. Don't do things that cause you shame and regret, right? All that. Don't. There's enough suffering, right? External. Don't put more on yourself. Self-induced suffering. That's something, man. I still, we all still have to remind ourselves of that and be cognizant to not do that.
Well, I certainly appreciate you. I appreciate you coming in here telling this story. It was an honor to speak with you. And you know what? I've learned quite a bit. I got to be honest with you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you guys got good vibes here.
Seriously, I'm very impressed with your whole. It's the fact that you're only 38. It took me to my 50s to get to where you're at. Like,
whoa!
To where?
Slow down. You ain't there.
I'm talking about mentally.
Oh, okay. Again, you ain't there.
Yeah.
I love you, Pop. You know I love you.
We're gonna see afterwards how much you love me.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, the suffering of a Navy SEAL. And as always, let's think about all the stuff that we learned. Fear can elevate you or bury you. Kids are selfish by nature. Charges aren't convictions. Dreams can get taken away very easily. Second chances don't come often. Point action towards desired outcomes. Don't tell them what to do. Show them where to go. But most importantly, be grateful in the moment.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming in,
what's
Taylor.
up, man.
I appreciate it so much. And that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to go to popple.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount. Follow us on all social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, OnlyFans. Follow Bobby Crudell at Bobby_Crudell. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And of course, follow Suffering Podcast. Go to TCAV Official. Check out Taylor. And we will see you on the next episode.